All right, so welcome everybody. Welcome to the first live stream of Dreamslayer Studios. This is going to be a bit of a prequel episode for the stream, and we have 3 tabletop RPG campaigns currently running. 2 Marvel Superheroes campaigns, Marvel Galaxies and In the Mouth of Madness, and 1 Everyday Heroes campaign called Whispers of Time. It's my plan to have all 3 of these streaming on the Twitch channel. Each of the campaign adventures runs every other week. The Marvel games every other Tuesday, and the Everyday Heroes every other Sunday. Marvel Galaxies and Whispers of Time are fairly early in the campaigns, so if you are just joining us here on Twitch, I would highly recommend seeking out the earlier episodes on our Dreamslayer Studios YouTube channel, where you'll find nearly 200 episodes of our earlier campaigns. Can you believe, guys, that we have that many?
I can believe it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gray hair going on here, so yes.
Yeah, that's true. So there's lots more Marvel content like Orphans of the Blip and Iroshan, more Everyday Heroes with Ozark Requiem and Get Charlotte. We have a Steampunk Savage Worlds campaign called Avalon by Gaslight, a Tales from the Loop, and a great little indie game that kind of started it all for us called The Great American Novel by a friend of the channel, Christopher Gray. Tonight, I've got several players who have been featured in our games over the past few years, and we will have the first episode of Whispers of Time playing in the background. Hey, Christy just joined us. I just saw you there. So while we have Whispers of Time kind of running in the background, we're going to just kind of chat about our games, how we came together, or really whatever comes to our mind in this stream. And if those of you that are in the chat room have some questions that you want to send our way, I'll kind of keep an eye on that, and then we'll ask some questions from the crowd here tonight as well. So, thank you all for joining us, and please, like I said, feel free to throw in some questions into the chat screen. I'm going to go ahead and get Whispers started here, so that's playing in the background, and I'm going to adjust that sound down to where it's just barely audible. Hopefully that should have taken care of the problem. So, hello guests.
Hello.
It's
Hello.
good to see all of you.
It's been a while.
Got bits and pieces of 2 or 3 separate campaigns here with us tonight. So basically, I really just kind of wanted to let this kind of be an opportunity for us to kind of get together, introduce yourselves a little bit to the folks that are that have been watching us on YouTube and that are now joining us here on Twitch. So actually, if let's go around the table here real quick. I'll start off myself. That video is a little off. I'm going to kind of fast forward that to get us, there we go. Now we can kind of see that a little bit better. So myself, my name's Christopher Tyner. I am the creator of Dreamslayer Studios, and Dreamslayer kind of came out of my original Marvel campaign that started way back in about 1985, 86. Even before Christy started kind of playing with us. I don't think I was Dreamslayer yet, but that's what the character ended up being over a couple of years. So I started playing Marvel superheroes way back then. And really just started with me and one other guy who played at his grandma's Midget Links golf course. They owned this little golf course that we and all of our friends kind of would meet up, and he and I just kind of started the whole thing off, and then we started bringing more people in and more people in and more people in, and I was kind of one of those guys that kind of hid the light under a bushel because I didn't want, the popular kids to know that I was actually gaming. And it took me a while to kind of come out of the closet a little bit. It was just a little bit at a time. But it was the theater kids that I slowly started to bring into my little world of Marvel superheroes back in high school. So, and Christy is one of those individuals that started playing with me way back when. So, Christy, if you wouldn't mind, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself. Tell us, the campaign that we're currently running in, your character, who you are, and maybe talk about some of the other stuff that we've done on the YouTube channel. And here comes Frick.
All right. And one interesting fact about myself.
Yes, one interesting fact about yourself.
Just one.
um, Hi, I'm Christy. And I started gaming probably in 1990, maybe. Back in the theater loft. That was my fast track to popularity in contrast to Tyner. And that was in the Marvel game that Chris ran, but also I think we ran some other things that were nondescript, maybe not specific to Marvel, but that's all.
Yeah, I think we did a little bit of vampire here or there. We dove into Chill, I think was another one if you remember that one.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now, after doing a few of those that you've mentioned, we're in the midst of the galaxies, and that's a fun one. My character Usharia is one of the elders of our planet from which we've been whisked away, and we're finding our way on the new territory. I don't know. I didn't prepare anything to say.
That's right. No, it's all.
I'm gonna pass it on.
We're just winging it.
The talk. Yep. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah,
That's what we do best.
Yeah. So I think after Christy, out of the folks that we currently have on screen here right now, I think Clint. I think you and I probably are.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been gaming with you a little bit longer than some of the other ones. So.
Wow, that's kind of surprising. I felt like I came in late to the game.
Well, but if you really think about it, it's been at least 20 years.
Yeah, it's been since 2002.
Yeah.
Ish,
Mm-hmm.
I think. I got into I started gaming before I met Chris, obviously. Didn't get into it in high school because I grew up in a very rural high school and I got my ass beat up enough as it was. So I didn't really want to even though I wanted to get into Dungeons and Dragons, and things like that, I didn't. But was a comic book nerd. There is a group of guys that, we read our Marvel comics in secret. It was almost, we tried to hide it like our porn from our parents. But in college is when I started playing D&D fairly regularly, and then moved to Chicago after college, and that's when it really got me. Lived a block and a half away from a mutual friend of Chris Tyner's at that point in time that I did not know was a mutual friend of Chris Tyner's, even though I'm not sure that is how we probably met through her. But anyway, we moved back to our hometown where Chris and I and a couple other people live. And that's when I really got in with Chris, was introduced through the mutual friend that I knew in Chicago and a couple other people. And we started doing a regular Sunday night thing with Dungeons and Dragons, I believe is what we started off with. And then we went to Marvel, and that was the first time I ever played Marvel. And I fell in love with it immediately just because it was such a throwback and so much fun. But we played Pathfinder. We did a couple homebrew campaigns that were a mix of all kinds of other games, creating our own little system, which I still think we should work on that because that was a rather brilliant system.
Which one?
The space one.
Oh
What?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was fun.
I've still got
Um,
that in my back pocket somewhere. And
okay.
truthfully, I have to say that Galaxies is probably an expansion of that.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
that that was a real influence, I think, in what I'm planning
Mhm.
for Marvel Galaxies.
Yes.
So yeah, but that was a cool
Yes.
system for sure.
But in the current games that we're playing, in the one that we're not currently playing, that we're putting on pause right now, Marvel Orphans of the Blip, I play Spider Wasp, who is the worst named character ever. But I have so much fun playing him because he started off being such a little elusive shyster, and now he's become the kind of the moral center of our group. And then in the current one, Whispers of Time, I am playing the Assassin's Creed based character, and I'm having a blast with that. If you're listening to what's going on in the background, probably in about 30 minutes, my character will be introduced, and I get to scream and yell a lot. But then he went away, and I haven't recovered. I can't wait till we get back to modern day, and he comes out of the casket, and it just freaks out. But anyway, little bit about me. The one thing I'm known of in our group of Chris's friends is Chris likes to soliloquize quite a lot, and I'm the guy that always screws that up for him by just walking up and taking a gun out and attacking whoever's talking. So
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite things to do to him in gaming. So
yeah.
that's
Clint has cut off a lot of my villain monologues. Yeah. Mhm.
well, really, I just think, would my character stand there and listen to this? No, he would shoot. But anyway, but yeah, there's a just we have a lot of fun, and I'm happy to be a part of this with Chris. I have a lot of fun doing it.
No, that's good. Thank you, buddy.
Mhm.
So now here's what's going to be really interesting here, Mike Hancock. Out of this group, you're the next one that I've been gaming with the longest. And,
Really?
and you are fairly new to the whole kind of concept, really, of role playing, I think. You and I and my buddy Wes, who drew the groomsman thing here right behind me. See, I arranged my room to have that in the background now. And you've got yours. There it is.
I'll just take it
right
off
there.
the wall real quick. I regret that.
Nice.
Oh, shit.
I convinced Mike and our mutual friend Wes Burnick to sit in on a Marvel game that I ran probably back in the mid 2000s. Probably it was. I think I don't even know if you and Jasmine actually were even married yet.
No, we were because she came.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew you were together, but I
that was a
wasn't sure
rough
if you were married.
explanation.
Oh yeah. She did not get it.
I'm pretty sure if we weren't married, we wouldn't be after that. No, she's tolerant.
But we rolled up characters for you and for Wes, and Wes sat in on it. You got involved with it, and I feel like it really kind of bit you. And Wes was like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? This doesn't make any goddamn sense."
I think he's jealous now.
Nerds.
I think he's jealous now.
You think so? I don't think I could.
Mm-hmm.
I could convince him to do it. I've tried.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. He might.
But then you moved away to Florida.
Yep.
And okay,
We came back in 2019.
Right. Were you playing with me at the ogre thing before
Yes, he
you
was.
left, or was that after you came back?
No, it was when I came back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was that kind of what got you into doing this?
Mhm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Out on the far west side?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I
Yep.
couldn't remember if we had done the Great American Novel first, and then you ended up with me out there. So okay.
Nope.
So
Yep.
you played in my kind of playtest of In the Mouth of Madness and In the Shadow of Evil. The live.
Oh man, I don't
versions.
remember
Yeah.
the names of these things. I don't remember my character name.
I think you were Union Jack, if I remember.
Yes.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where I met Clint.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was the Iron Fist in that one.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. No, that got me back into it. It was every Sunday driving out there, and I would pack like 4 lunches and then eat them all for the entire time. And then COVID hit, and I think that's when it kind of stopped for a while, and then it went virtual, and I've just done several of them since then. That's when we did Great American Novel, and then, oh man, I don't remember the names of any of these. I have notes.
And then
I just need to look them up.
Avalon, I think, was after that.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it was COVID really that started this whole idea of us kind of getting together. And then I kind of just started recording it mostly for posterity's sake, really, and for myself to kind of remember what we had done like the week before, because Great American Novel was a game that was completely improv, from the get-go. There was no set storyline. I didn't create a plot to begin with, and it was based completely off of what the players or actors were really doing in that particular game. So each week was just a whole new thing. So I was flying by the seat of my pants, but it was a hell of a lot of fun. And I had never really done a game like that before, but in doing so, I think it's really influenced me to be a lot more, I think, loosey-goosey in the games that I am now running. So I was really glad to have that experience in running that with you guys.
What I liked about that was it forced everybody, I think, to come out of their shells a little bit more, because you could take control of the narrative. But the game mechanics were a lot easier. Like, I still have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm pretty sure that 90% of the time I roll, I'm not adding advantages or disadvantages or something. And then, like, after the game's over, I'm looking at my stuff going, oh shit, I had a vest on the entire time. I forgot. I probably shouldn't have died then. But yeah.
I think I've
So-
only killed you once, and really just on purpose, because it just served
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah, but then afterwards I was like, wait, no, I did have a vest on. I shouldn't have died. But yeah, no, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. Just trying to figure this stuff out and try to come up with some sort of a character that I immediately forget from week to week what they sound like or talk like or act like.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think too, one of the things that I have enjoyed working with you on some of these games is the fact that you and I have had like stage time together.
Yeah.
And as an improvisational actor, you're probably one of the best that I've ever worked with on stage, and as far as you bringing something like that to the table, the characters that you've created, I think really have a lot of gravitas because of your background, I think, in improv. So
I would never describe
maybe
my
not
characters as having gravitas. That's great. I'll take it. Thanks.
So Frick, I think you then are the next one in line. And you and I go back, has it been maybe 15 years now?
Somewhere in that 15 to 20 range, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would have been, see, sophomore year of high school or junior year, one or the other. So that would put me at, oh yeah, it's like 17.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
think
17 years now.
2006, I think, is when when I met you originally.
That's about right.
Thank you for making me feel old.
Yeah, right. So Frick was one of my theater kids when I was managing, at that point I was the director of education for local theater here where we live in southern Indiana. And he was in the first show that we did that was geared towards high school kids. And we fortunately had a local playwright that had approached me about wanting to do a show that featured high school kids, and I was in the process of setting up this program. And that show, Acts of God, is what kind of kicked that whole program off for us here locally with our community theater. And Frick was a part of that. And that show has gone on to be produced nationwide, and I think in England as well. So we were the first ones to kick that puppy off. So it's kind of a nice feather in our little caps.
It sure is, buddy. It sure is. It's been fun I mean, we did a number of shows together, whether it was a big production or whether I was stage managing for you or, just coming in real quick to help with something. I remember like the time we filmed the thing for North for Frankenstein. We filmed like the Angry Villagers and shit.
Yeah.
Little days like that, or the 24-hour comic book,
Yeah.
It's been fun over these number of years, just helping out with different little projects here and there or being a big part of them, whatever. But the fact that it's led to this has been just fucking awesome. I look forward to this every couple of weeks, so it's been a lot of fun.
So how did you get started doing role playing? Because you were role playing before you and I started doing this, right?
Yeah, a little bit. And I hadn't in a long time. I had done a little bit with the family over COVID because, obviously. Everybody remember that? Does anybody remember? But no, I had gotten back into it a little bit then, and I still am sitting on a campaign that I would love to finish someday for Icewind Dale. That is incredible. But I started, I was dating a girl when I was like 2021, and she was really into it, and she taught me and a couple of our friends how to play, and over the course of an entire summer, between college for all of us, we did an entire campaign over one summer, and bug bit me and I never looked back. I did 3 or 4 campaigns after that with her and with some other friends, and then I didn't play for a number of years. It was always in the back of my head, like I wanted to, but I didn't know anybody who was doing it, and my time was constantly consumed with theater. And no disrespect to theater, but I don't do it anymore, and I have so much more time to do things now.
Right.
And it is so nice. What I did do over the last 15 years, theater. What have I done over the last 2 or 3 years since I stopped doing theater? Well, this, umpiring baseball, learning Italian, I'm reading again, I'm writing poetry again, I'm doing so much more shit. And it's just this in particular is the one thing, like, this is in my family calendar. Like, that's how important it is to me. Like, the family can log in and see, like, oh, what do we have going on? Oh, Frick's got his game that night. Like, this is where I'm going to be, and that is known, So it's been nice to have something consistent to get back into. And what has this been now? A couple years?
We're, I think, right around approaching the 3rd year, I think, right now.
Wow.
So,
yeah. See, it doesn't feel like it. I mean, it's so much, it's just so much fun every week. But yeah, it's been nice.
I think
to
you
have
got
this.
into it, though, I think right at about the 1-year mark for us. So I think you've been a part of it for 2. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that blip game is a lot of fun. Playing Shatter has been super kind of weird because he's a teenager, you know what I mean? So it's like we're having to access those memories again and like really figure out, how this kid would respond to shit. But as far as responding to shit goes, that's my favorite thing about doing all this is I don't know if you can tell because you film it, but I get into it every week, dude. I don't know where you're going, and sometimes I forget I'm supposed to be playing a character. I just really get into what's happening, and I start watching the game, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. What's gonna happen next? And I remember I'm in control of that a little bit, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and Shatter being his, having the matter control for glass, the same way Magneto's got metal. I thought when you first approached me about doing this, it took me like 3 or 4 days to come up with something because I wanted to come up with something original, and I was so proud when I thought of that. And man, has it been fun trying to manipulate, the rules of that. Like, first time I thought to raise the temperature of it comes to mind, but
yeah.
But
Well,
it's been fun.
And I really like Madalena in Whispers too, and what you've really been bringing to the table with her and playing a female character. I think going back to the 80s and 90s, I think a lot of us were very reluctant to try to think outside of a very narrow box, of what it is that we could do as a character. And me as a player, I know I kind of always gravitated towards, like martial arts kind of characters and that sort of stuff, because that's kind of my background. It's
Sure.
it's what I was the most familiar with. But then now I think people are willing to explore different sides of themselves, and I think we were too afraid to try to play a character of the opposite gender because we would say something completely inappropriate.
I think when we started playing together, we actually had a rule saying you couldn't play a character.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
That's for a short period of time.
I think we did.
And yeah, and I mean, it's weird to tread that line. Here's the thing. When I first started playing, I mainly played barbarian tanky type characters because I didn't want to have to think that much. I just wanted to like swoop in, be the hero, take and do a bunch of damage, save the day type of thing in battle. But then I didn't want to focus on the role play stuff as much because I was already trying to absorb everything that was happening, and so that kind of continued just because I liked, I got good at playing those characters. I enjoyed it. And then when you approached me about Shatter, I was like, okay, I got to have something that I'm at least somewhat familiar with to get back into this because I haven't played in so long. But when I play video games, and especially like, I don't know, does anybody play Dragon Age at all? One of my favorite role-playing games for Xbox, PlayStation type thing. But anytime I play games like that, if the option is there to create a female character, I do it. And it's mainly because, the game is programmed so I want to see how the characters in this world are going to, and I usually always play an elf, but but I almost never play a human in the first playthrough. It's usually a female character of another species. And it's interesting to me to get to see that perspective even a little bit and play around with it in a video game setting. So when we started talking about Whispers of Time, and I thought of Sojourn and Madalena, both. That's exactly what I wanted to see. All right, well, let's push some boundaries now. I've been playing for a couple of years. I'm back into it. I know what it is to role play and, all that. Let's see what happens, and it has been fun to explore it so far. You've put me in some awkward situations, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm surrounded by dudes who want to kill me or fuck me constantly, and that's weird. That's not something I've ever experienced in my life.
Wants to do neither. Let's just throw that out there.
But no, she's been really cool. I've liked how she's developed because Sojourn was clearer in my head when we started this, but now as we've played the past and gotten into it, really like Madalena's starting to feel really fleshed out, and I've had fun, fitting her into the world.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying seeing how those characters are developing, and. Just so you know, Frick Ironsides, one of our viewers here, says Dragon Age is awesome, so he's also a fan.
I love that game.
I'm a huge fan as well.
I keep hearing that we're getting this next the Dreadwolf coming out soon, and I just
hopefully by the end of the year is the last I heard.
Yeah, that's what they've been saying the last 2 years, I think. But I'm interested to see what they do with it because I think they fired like their lead developer or something and switched developers like a year ago. And so I'm like, it's going to be curious to see if there's a different tone to the game now. But anyway, I digress. But all those role playing games, whether it's stuff like this online or Baldur's Gate, Dragon Age stuff, whether I was doing this with people, even in those years when I wasn't, I was playing games like that. So it's, role playing and that kind of thing has always been, fun for me ever since I first got introduced.
Yeah.
So. And thank you for providing a hell of a universe, no matter what we're playing. So Papaw was a blast too. I hope, it's not. Yeah. Yes, and I don't want to say I hope we get to play more because we're doing that like when some of us are missing or if we just want to take a break for a week or whatever. And it's like I'm enjoying Whisper so much I almost don't want to do that. But I will bring Papaw back to life anytime. Yeah. Papaw on his creaky knees.
And I've got to figure out a way with some of our new players that are in both of the of the games how to sit down with each of them and try to create a new character for them for that game. if
Yeah.
we do end up doing that. So
Mhm.
I really do need to figure out a time where I can actually do that with the few folks that need the characters. So
Yeah, that's the one thing about this is it's every 2 weeks is fine, but it's definitely not enough. I wish we all had more time. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
so these stories deserve to be fleshed out, man. We always do that, but it takes a driver and a captain to get that going. So you always do a good job writing the ship and setting us along and stuff, giving us that groundwork to lay this on, and it's a lot of fun developing it every week. So
Yeah. All right, Marks, you're the newbie for me at
The
least.
newbie. I'm the rookie.
And we've known each other now for probably 15 years or so, probably.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah. At least
Um,
14, 15.
and weirdly, you and I kind of got to know each other through Mike and our buddy Wes that drew the groomsmen back there, I think, right?
I don't remember. I
I,
was thinking about that.
I
I mean, I'm
think
friends
so.
with Wes too
Yeah.
and stuff. So yeah. I still have lunch with him occasionally.
Yeah,
but,
and I think that's how I met you initially, was just on some sort of lunch date with Wes, I think.
Yeah.
And then well, I'll let you kind of fill in the blanks, because then you kind of came after me for a little bit there, right?
Yeah, because I do some filmmaking and stuff. So I had you be one of the main characters in a web series that I did called Reality on Demand.
Mhm.
So
And it was the worst decision you ever made.
No.
Because I was fucking terrible. I
No.
was ill prepared for performing in front of the screen.
I had a very long monologue for you to do. Everybody loves that. But I still have people come like, "Hey, who's that guy that played Aiden Kingston?" I think
Oh,
was his
really?
name. Yeah, he was great.
Oh my
So
god! Wow! Oh my god! It's probably one of, like, I'm embarrassed it's on film somewhere. In all honesty, because I was so unprepared.
no, it was good. And what that show is like, the main characters get stuck in a virtual reality world, popping around different made up TV shows. They're parodies of shows, and Chris played kind of this announcer speaker person, kind of sometimes broke the fourth wall kind of thing. So a lot of fun. So that's where we first kind of worked together on, um, but I didn't know you did like role playing games that much. Actually, I didn't know.
Yeah, probably not. And again, I still, like, even back then, I still was a little cautious about trying to admit that in front of people, and it was just that mid to late '80s kind of mentality of, well, we have to do this in secret because people will think we're weird. And yes, we are a little weird, but we really just didn't want to shout that from the treetops back then. But I think stuff like Critical Role and a lot of the other stuff that kind of started on Twitch, I think has really made it a little bit more acceptable. And I was just having a conversation with somebody at one of the local shops here yesterday, as a matter of fact, about that. And I think with Critical Role specifically, I think what they did is, because of the fact that all of those folks that are involved in that particular show are voice actors, and specifically for like anime type stuff, they brought anime fans into the Dungeons and Dragons world, I think. And I think that's what kind of helped to kind of push it to a little bit more of like an acceptable type of thing. Because like anytime we have one anime, convention here in our town, which I'm not an anime guy, but they would do role-playing stuff there, and I think it was because of Critical Role that they were like, oh, let's bring some people that know how to do role-playing games. So I would go in and run role-playing games at this local con. But it was a completely different crowd that I was usually playing for. Now, there were some solid role players that were just there just to role play, but then the others that were coming into these games were all anime girls, So it was a completely different dynamic, and trying to introduce girls, these women to the game. So yeah, I think it really opened up, I think, the floodgates for people to,
I think so.
to
Yeah.
to accept it a little bit more.
And you got other stuff from the pandemic. People were doing it more. I think it let the secret out.
Yeah.
Everybody knew about it now, at least D&D. Yeah, I've been gaming since junior high. So I started with Star Wars. I used to hang out at the library because my mom was a children's librarian. And so I'd have to stay there after school. And then it just happened on the summers, this other librarian with her kids and their friends would play Star Wars. And I was like, what's this? What are you doing? And stuff. And I gamed with them and I was hooked. So, and then that led to Marvel in high school, especially, and other games like Shadowrun and gosh, I don't know, D&D, of course, and whatever else over the years.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then when I saw you on Facebook talking about Dreamslayer Studios and you were playing Marvel, I'm like, I would love to play Marvel again. And I was kind of like, oh well, let me know if there's an opening. Let me know. And there was an opening, but then you had an opening in Get Charlotte. So so I jumped in and took on the Hammer role, and who would fluctuate between Russian to Arnold Schwarzenegger accents and who knows what.
My favorite character of the whole thing, personally.
You two
That-
were both so much fun in that
Oh
series.
yeah.
I still have to watch the last two episodes, and it's fine about spoilers, so don't worry about that. But I just want to say I love your work in that one, dude. It's so much fun to watch. But everybody's so great in that one. That one's got me on the edge of my seat every time, every episode I can get to watch of that one.
Awesome. So yeah, so that's how did that. You know, I don't play video games very often, but I try to play RPGs a lot. So, you know, and it spurred me on even more doing Dreamslayer Studios. So now if I'm not playing that every other Tuesday, I'm playing Call of Cthulhu Darker Trails, which is like an Old West Call of Cthulhu. Tales of the Valiant, and my nephew, niece, and their boyfriend, girlfriends were like, well, we want to try this out. We tried out Monster of the Week
That's a good
game, which is a rules light game. They loved it. And now they keep bugging me, like, can we keep doing this every weekend? So now we're cool uncle and aunt because
Right.
hang out with them every weekend. It's so weird. So that's nice. So yeah, I like role playing games a lot. And what I like in particular, James, for what you're doing, Chris, is I like the world building you do and how you take elements of worlds that exist and you put new twists and make them fresh and stuff in new ways, like Marvel Galaxies, and like fresh takes on Galactus and the Heralds and Conan and everything else. So
Right.
you never know what's going to happen.
And interestingly enough, that you brought up Conan, we actually have in the chat room one of the guys from the Unofficial Canon Project that you and I think, are both part of,
Oh,
and I
yeah.
think a few of you guys have joined up as well. Stephen Minix is chatting with us right now, and he is the guy that actually put together. And Stephen, I hope I'm right. You are the guy that actually put together the Conan books for the Phase Rip stuff, right? I'm going to let you answer that if you're still there. But that book, having that was like, oh, good. Okay. I was a huge fan of the comic series when it was by Marvel back in the day. And this was what was really the focus of Minix's book. And he says it's not my best work, that he was sick.
Everybody's so humble today.
So Stephen, just so you know, I mean, we really just kind of got started with the whole Conan saga for Galaxies, but I've got a lot more in store that I've kind of pulled from your books, and as Marks was saying, I've twisted and turned it, so that it's something that's different, but there's a lot of elements, I think, of what Stephen you've done in that book. So there's a lot more that we're going to be exploring in Hyboria for sure.
I like my magic cloak.
Yes,
It's great. As my character often talks about.
I'm Cloak Man.
Yeah.
But Stephen, actually, he had mentioned before that he's actually working on something that I can torture you guys with, called Doomsday. And Stephen, depending on when you come out with that, I might actually be able to kind of work some of the elements of that into this campaign as well, because as we have discovered in Marvel Galaxies, Doctor Doom is actually the god of this particular universe.
Oh, sure. Spoil it for me.
Well, you know,
I think he's a god in every
catch
universe,
up,
really.
I do.
Now, Marks, you were a playtester for Everyday Heroes, right?
Yes, I was.
How
yes.
did you get involved with that at such an early time?
How did I get involved in that? I think it was online somehow. I just going through different website groups. They were starting to promote it, looking for play testers.
Oh, yeah.
And I signed up for it. I guess I can't remember exactly how I made that connection, but yeah, it was fun. They would put us through different scenarios where it would be like, okay, try out. Here's a few character classes. Try these out. Here's a scenario. It was like an adventure, but like you do like chapter 1 is level 1 or 3 or whatever. Chapter 2 would be like you jump up at mid-level, and then chapter 3 would be like you're level 9. So they were trying to see, how everything worked. So it was a really cool process, and we fill out surveys and stuff.
Captain Martin
So,
said, got blackout drunk one night and woke up with PDFs in my hands.
Yeah, right. Could have happened. I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember now that you mention it, but I've been hooked ever since. I don't know. It could have been an ad. Who knows? So, but probably somewhere on Facebook. I'm always lurking around Facebook, running across different stuff, different groups.
Yeah.
In Discord nowadays. Also, so. But yeah, I play tested long time ago the later books, some of which never got published, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, really?
Angel. Yeah.
Huh.
So that was a lot of fun. So I got to see some of the books that never got made because they lost the license. But
well, wait, was that with Everyday Heroes?
no, I mean I'm talking a long
okay.
time ago.
Okay, yeah,
Studios.
I remember that one, that they were touting that was going to be coming out, and then it just never happened, and I kind of lost track of it. Yeah.
Buffy and Angel. It came out. It came out the last season of Buffy when it was out initially, I think, around that time. But they never, like, there was an Initiative book. The Initiative is like a military unit that is involved, like in season 3 or 4, I think. And there was a book that was one of the books I was playtesting. Didn't happen, unfortunately. But that's probably my first playtest opportunity, and it's always like word of mouth or something with those things. It's you go to Gen Con, you get to know some people, you go online, you friend them and stuff. That's usually how it happens.
Yeah.
But they got like Tales of the Valiant. I play tested that a little bit, and that was just open. They were really open, looking for people. So that's a 5e spinoff.
When is Gen Con this year? Wait, Clint is
September?
yelling right now in the other. I don't know if you heard that or not. Get the fuck out!
Nope, I missed that.
That explains why I all of a sudden felt.
I know exactly where we are in that episode.
Right?
Yeah, me too.
So I'll kind of throw it to you guys here, and also those of you that are in the chat. If you guys have any questions that you want to throw at us, by all means, start throwing them. I'm happy to, answer any questions that you guys have, and then for you all, I'll turn the tables on you, and you ask me what you want. We can flip the tables here if you want.
Well, real quick, I want to push back on one thing Clint said. He's the moral center of the Blip group. Let's talk about the clones, buddy.
I have no idea what you're talking about there.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. There's not just
clone
after clone of you wandering around or anything. That's good.
Just one. And
that we know of.
Well, we don't know. There's when we go back, you'll find something out. There's something that's been going on that I did that you don't know I did.
Oh no! Oh really? There's been something going on, because Shatter has been holding on to that, dude. Like at
Oh,
some
everybody
point,
has.
like that thing has made me every week when we got on that game, I was nervous. I'm like, this is gonna be the week. Like this
Well, Shatter
guy.
kind of is a bundle of nerves anyway. So, he just,
Well, given the things that have
if there is
happened
one
to him,
character that needs a Valium,
yeah,
it is
right,
Shatter.
right. Given the things that have happened, you have literally broken me twice, and that's the thing. I at least. Not you personally, but I mean, like, you know what I mean? It's like just the group. Well, actually, you personally once because of the time that we had our attitudes changed by the.
Oh, yeah, but that wasn't me. That was someone else.
Well, y'all had to sweep me up off the floor, is my point. Like,
But we
thank
did,
God for
didn't we?
regeneration.
We did, didn't we?
Yeah. It's been nice not having to
Yeah,
die.
but you should have, I mean, the amount of secrets that Colin had before you even started playing.
Oh, God. Also, I'm a little concerned about the support group that I know is developing, which is, I've been yeeted into space by Spider Wasps Anonymous. How many people have you gravitated off into the world? And also, I love that right before we quit playing that game, after a year of him just sending people off into the universe, we finally broke down and we're like, okay, let's break down the math on this. Let's see how far would they go.
That's a Chris Tyner thing, not a Shatter
Yeah,
thing.
that's true.
That
or
was
a,
funny.
or a Colin thing.
Captain Martin said they got what they deserved.
Exactly.
But he also
You're not wrong.
He also has a question for you, Shatter.
Oh, yeah?
And that is, does Shatter have the same kind of effect like Iceman, where he turns into living glass?
So the way Shatter was created initially, the idea is that he fused with glass. That he was a volunteer test subject essentially, but the experiment went terribly wrong, and he ended up fusing with the glass. The only thing he's got the ability to switch between right now, essentially, is whether or not he's like more opaque, like you see through him like a window, or whether he's reflective, more like a mirror. He's got a little bit of that going on. I don't know how to answer the question beyond that, because even I, as a person out of character, have not decided what I want to happen with Shatter in regards to that. His whole thing has been he's been looking for a cure because he never asked for this. He doesn't want to be glass, doesn't want to be dragged into this bullshit that we get into every week, but at the same time, it's been happening long enough now. I'm developing, I'm working the power, I'm developing these friendships. Maybe I should stay this way. I don't really know what's going to happen there. In a perfect world, that would probably be where he ends up, with the ability to not be glass if he chooses. But right now he is stuck that way, as far as we know, and as far as we know, the only reversal may be permanent as well. Don't know.
Yeah, and Captain Martin said that it's kind of like the Sandman, but like the next evolution. And really, I never thought of it that way, but that it really kind of is that.
Yeah.
But he is stuck, and we are attempting to try to find a cure for him. And we were getting perhaps close when the shit hit the fan, and you guys ended up going into a strange little rift with the Inhumans that just appeared out of nowhere at our kind of little finale for Orphans before we jumped on to Whispers.
It's gonna be interesting to see where that goes. I think about that at least once or twice a week right now, even though we're not playing that game. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Chris, I got a question.
Yeah.
How much do you really like it when we split the party? And at this point, you know it's going to happen. So have you actually started like planning for when it happens for everything? Or are you still just like, son of a bitch? Like, why?
Boy, I really am going to shoot myself here in the foot. But I really don't mind it. And I kind of like it at times.
At times.
Yeah, I mean, not every time, because it can be a little bit of a headache to try to, number one, anticipate when you guys are going to do that, and especially if we're going to be going into two separate places where there's a potential battle that's going to go on. And I think I pulled it off in Get Charlotte that one time where we had, I think, a battle going on at the Chupacabras, I think, and then somewhere
I think back at the
else.
hotel.
Was it? Yeah, at the hotel.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
And I didn't like before we went into that episode, I didn't even have that hotel map at all. But I was like, okay, well, I know we're splitting the party, so I got to get something. And I threw that map together real quick just so I could, have that, and then shifting back and forth. But with that particular game, with it being a Tarantino type thing, shifting scenes like that really worked into the rhythm, I think, of that game really well. It doesn't work with every game, and it doesn't work, often, but I think at times, narratively, I think it can be kind of a really creative thing. But you've got to be able to kind of balance between the two groups enough to make it work, so that the one group that is not actively involved in the other scene doesn't feel like you're spending too much time with that other group. So you have to balance the time, I think, equally between the two, and that's probably what the hardest thing is as a GM is to figure out where that balance is.
So let me piggyback off that question a little bit if I can, Chris. When you are, and I ask this because I've DM'd a little bit, but mostly out of modules that already exist, and that's like driving on cruise control. You're in control, but you don't have to think quite as heavily. But you design a lot of these worlds, how do you, when you go to plan, okay, we did all this 1 week, now you got 2 weeks. In that 2 weeks, like, break it down a little bit. Like, what's the percentage look like versus of like, okay, I'm prepping this and I want to make sure that this happens or this thing happens, anticipation of what we're going to do, versus how much of it is like, you've got this maybe like a pool you draw from and you let us improv it and then you pick from the pool as we, choose where to move. Like, what's the difference, the breakdown between anticipation versus improv for you?
Okay, so I'm gonna go way back here, and Christy, this is going back into the days in the loft at the old high school. when I first started role playing and GMing, creating the stories, I stole everything. just ripped it off completely and just kind of twisted it a little bit and just kind of made it my own. But Christy, I don't know if you remember, and truthfully, I don't know if I ever admitted this or not, but a lot of the games that we played up in the loft that were the Marvel-centric games early on when Iroshan was first, kind of being formed, the vast majority of those stories that I wrote or came up with were episodes from Friday the 13th, the series.
I remember knowing that some of it was ripped from the headlines.
Right, yeah. And I think I even pulled some of the characters actually from that. Louis Vonderdy, the main character, or well, the guy that was kind of in charge of like gathering all of the spilled the beans. Yes, I did spill the beans, Ironsides. The guy that was basically in control of the antique shop and all that sort of stuff. So he was kind of like the pull, I think, for me. And I loved that show so much. And I would sneak and watch that at night because I was not allowed to stay up, number one, that late. And number two, I was not supposed to be watching any kind of horror or anything like that from my parents. So it was a real joy to be able to do that. So I stole a lot of stuff very early on. And then when I started writing my own stuff that was truly original, I didn't know what this meant, but I was very railroady. I had a certain story that I wanted to tell, and it was something that I created a path, and I drove my players down that path because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. If you look at some of the old like compendiums and adventures for Dungeons and Dragons and for the old Marvel game and so forth. The way that those things were written, it wasn't like choose your own adventure. It was like, this is what happens and this is what you read to the players, and then they do this and then you tell them this. So the format of that was kind of just what I did.
Mhm.
I think it was probably by the time I started running for some of our mutual friend Ryan Shoy and Dragon Shadow, who's in one of our other games. When I started writing for these guys, we were playing Vampire the Masquerade at that time. And at that point, that's when I started to just go, okay, I'm going to think about what's going to happen in this next section. And then whatever the characters do in that session is going to determine what happens after that.
Okay.
So there are still times where I will have a basic plot of what I expect. Now, if we go to one of the games that you are in, and we're looking at Orphans of the Blip, I knew how I wanted to start it, and I know how it's going to end.
Oh, okay. So very wrestling. That's
That's all, though. Like everything
Okay.
that we have done in between has been episode by episode, pretty much. Like,
Wow, okay.
I may think, like, I think once we got into Clint's like scroll stuff, I had an idea about where I wanted to go with that and taking it into the Secret Empire kind of storyline.
Sure.
So I kind of knew that I was going to kind of weave that a little bit, and then that was going to lead us into going to Mexico and meeting the Hulk.
Okay.
And the whole gang thing that was going on down there. So, but most of that really was all determined on what you guys were doing from one episode to the next.
Okay. That
Now,
makes sense.
If we go back and look at Get Charlotte, again, it was, I know how this thing begins, and I know that there are these elements that I want to try to work into the game. But then what those guys ended up doing much of the time
was totally screwing you over.
I was going this way, and then it was an immediate right turn.
Oh, God.
Complete 90-degree in the other direction. And I'm in the process right now of actually writing it out the way that I kind of had it planned originally. But I'm taking the elements of what the players did and kind of tweaking it back into the direction that they were kind of going. But it's going to end completely different than the way we ended it actually in game in the moment.
Oh, that's cool.
So
good idea.
So yeah, I mean, 150 pages later, here we go. So that's basically kind of my process now, and it just varies according to the individual game. Like with Galaxies, right now, I really knew how I wanted this to begin, and I wanted to kill everybody off in the first episode. Spoiler alert. So I knew I was going to kill everybody at first. And then I also knew where they were going to end up, like the Hyboria thing. So I knew that was going to happen. After that, there's a couple of different directions that this can go. Once they reach their destination on Hyboria, it's going to open up literally the universe for these players.
Okay.
And I have a direction where I think they will probably kind of have to go, but after that, sky's the limit as far as what can happen. And I have created literally a universe of stuff for the players in Galaxies to explore. And I have probably at least a dozen star systems that I haven't fleshed out, but I at least know, 5 or 6 planets in each one of these star systems and exactly kind of what
just
the
as much
theme
as
is
Starfield.
on that. Yeah, right.
Man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, it gives me an idea because I mean, like I said, I've only ever driven the cruise control ones, and that's what I like about this Icewind Dale campaign I've got in my back pocket is it's very spiderwebby like that. It's got a flesh out starting point, and definitely like this is what's happening and what you're mainly trying to do. But there's this way, this way, this way, this way, and this way to get there. And then there's all, it can branch out to other solutions from there. And the book, like, I mean, it is more of a flip from here to here to here to here as opposed to straight through type of thing. And I really enjoy that type of storytelling anyway. So it's kind of, yeah, it's interesting to hear that because like that makes me think it's like fuck, that's why the hook is so good every week. Okay, got it.
So, Christy, I think what we need to do with Marvel Galaxies is we just pick random planets when we land and there's a map. We go, nope, next planet.
Next planet.
Until there's no map. And then we're like, we'll stay here.
I like that one.
Good idea.
Yeah, sorry we messed up Charlotte.
No, you didn't mess it up. No, I mean, and I really like, and Dana had brought this up to me at one point, and I don't know if it was for Get Charlotte or if it was one of the other ones, and like she was apologizing to me because she felt like she derailed it. When I don't have rails, then you can't derail it, and I really love being challenged by the players because it makes me then think, oh, okay, I did not see that coming at all. Where do I go from here? So yeah, no, I don't ever apologize for thinking that you ruined something or threw us off the rails, because for me as a creator and as a storyteller, that's the meat and bones of what I do, is adapt. And I think any good game master has to be able to adapt to his players. And if not, then they're going to get bored with it. You've got to have some control over what it is that your characters are doing, and the stuff that you do has to affect the storyline, because if it doesn't, then you might as well not be rolling any dice. You might as well just sit there and just listen to somebody tell you a story. So it's not communal at that point. It's just you listening to somebody yammer on because that's the story that they want to tell.
I don't think anybody has ruined a campaign as much as I ruined one that Chris and I played and that Ryan was leading. Do you remember that, Chris? I believe it was a World of Darkness.
Yeah,
along that one,
right.
that line.
No, I remember it.
3 sessions into it, I ended it by playing my character, playing true to my character. I don't even remember the class anymore, but I was basically playing a guy that led souls from the human realm into the afterlife.
Yeah,
that was my job. Chris was playing a golem that was actively searching for a soul. During the first session, we're doing our little, we all meet this little Mexican bar or whatever, I think, or whatever, to learn about each other. And one of the other players, Nathan, who played with us on a regular basis, and I still play with on another night occasionally, he's sitting there telling me he's got all these special powers. He's I'm basically some sort of sorcerer magician. But he gets all of his power from these 2 souls that he has trapped in bags on his belt. And when he said that, I just looked at Ryan, who was running the campaign, and I just looked at him and said, "You're shitting me, right? You allowed this to happen." So I, about 3 episodes in, we're getting ready to go into our first major battle or whatever. And I start attacking Nathan's character to try to get souls to lead them. And then he started like beating the crap out of me. So I just looked at Chris's character, the golem, and said, "Hey, he's got 2 souls on his belt." And Chris just immediately starts attacking him too. And the Nathan just flipped out to another universe. End of game.
Yep. And I think didn't I kill you?
Yeah, I believe you did kill me.
Yeah, because of what you had done, and
Yes.
yeah, and I walked away. Like, I killed him, and they were like, "Why did you kill him?" I was like, "I can't work with that guy, and I can't work with any of you. Bye."
Right, exactly. Bye. Exactly.
I'll be in my trailer.
Yeah. So then I think we went back to Marvel.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
I felt bad. I really did. But
No, but it's just that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you're playing the characters true to form, and something like that happens, and it destroys the campaign, it destroys the campaign, and then you move on. So I mean, I loved my character. I loved him so much, and I really wanted to see what was going to happen to him.
Mhm.
But I was like, "Fuck these people! I'm not working with them." This guy's lying. I can't trust this guy. No, thanks. I hate you. You can go fuck off. So yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah, it was.
We have a question from the community here. Captain Martin is asking, going around the table, what has been your favorite highlight of one of the games? That warmth of his voice just washes over you, and it lights that little light that is within. Don't all speak at once.
Well,
It's hard. First off, it is hard to pick just one because there are a lot of fun moments every week. But then, I mean, it's that thing like somebody asks you what's your favorite movie, and all of a sudden you forget every movie you've ever seen.
For the hammer, every time he killed somebody with a makeshift item, which is a lot of times.
Sack of bricks.
I'd say
my
yeah,
favorite-
sack of bricks.
My favorite for Get Charlotte was when we basically had the hammer just do all the fighting for an entire episode. Like, you want to fight, you want to go war,
The bull and
so
stuff.
yeah, with the bulls and everything, and it worked. It actually worked, because I was like, "Oh, these characters can't really die," and then as it was going on, I was like, "Oh shit, this may actually get him killed." And then you managed to pull it off. And I was like, and afterwards, Chris was like, "Okay, what the fuck?" That was not supposed to happen, but it worked.
That was a highlight for me too.
It was really funny.
That was absolutely it was a stellar story arc, that episode, because I think we started at a bar where the drinking was not going well, but some skeletons emerged, and my timeline might be off, but my recollection was that the hammer revealed some self-doubts. And that was the very episode where he ends up, what was the name of that bull in the bullfight?
El Diablo.
Yeah.
El Diablo.
Yeah.
Where he's face to face with El Diablo and ultimately conquers. It was heartwarming.
Yeah.
Like a story of redemption.
And all he wanted to do was fight, like, he's a simple man. I just want to fight, but I can't, and I know I'll probably never be able to. And it's like, hey, here's your opportunity.
We've got there was a game that we did. I cannot remember why we were where we were, but we walked into a room and opened to a door full of bad guys, and I said human resources, and you had me roll for it. You went ahead and had me roll for it, and I swear to God, it was like 2 away from being a success of the entire room of bad guys believing that we were there from human resources to check in. And I don't know where we would have gone after that had I passed that check. So I'm low key glad we ended up having to fight, but that was a good
was
one.
during the Scroll campaign, if I'm not
It
mistaken.
was.
That was
We
the
were
Scroll
out at the
campaign. That
base
was
in
it.
in Nevada.
Yeah, it was during the Secret Empire stretch
Yeah.
of that, and I even named the episode "Human Resources."
I remember that, yeah, because when the episode came out that
Yeah.
week, I was at work and I almost had a laughing attack.
I hate to say it, Frick, but my favorite was when I created the clone because I needed time away from everybody to figure things out.
Yeah.
And I remember talking with Chris before I did this, saying, okay, this is what I want to do. How much free will do these clones of mine have if I'm not around? Because I wanted what happened. I honestly wanted that to happen. I wanted him to get his own free will and try to survive and not want me to come back.
The moral center of the group, everybody.
That was me as me being me, not
Right.
Colin, Colin's decision. Colin had no idea what would happen. But that's what me being the devious asshole player I am wanted to happen, because I wanted to create that like strife and role play it and see what would happen.
Sure.
Because if you haven't noticed, Rick, our characters never really get along for some reason.
No, yeah, I don't know what it is, man, but it is. I think it's maybe I haven't gotten over the fact that we met with you webbing my ass to a wall.
I didn't know if you were going to attack us or not.
But no, this whole clone thing is one of my favorite whole storylines. I'll tell you another thing I'm enjoying of yours in particular in Whispers of Time is your first attack every session. I love it so much. I love it. It's like I've gambled before. I like, I'll go to the casino now and then, but I don't play slots. I imagine though it's what it's like when you hit that thing and all the jackpot comes and you're like, oh shit, all these coins. That's what it's like with the dice on the screen.
And that's what's great about the character I'm playing. He is one shot to be a badass.
Yeah.
And he's pretty good outside of that, but
he's decent. Yes,
he's squishy.
Yes,
after
he has no
that
armor.
First one. And so I think, and this is just the GM talking to the player here, and he's set up to be the sneaky guy, and I think that if you continue to kind of play into that, I think you're gonna.
I haven't had a huge chance to exploit that yet.
Right. Yeah.
I was hoping to do that at the garden, but everybody just kind of walked in, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah. For me, I've got several. There's a 100 I could probably pull out, but there's a few that do stand out. My favorite interaction goes to Avalon by Gaslight, and it was the conversation between Mike. What was your character's name? Jack.
Bendigo Jack
and the Red Cap, and you making the Red Cap sing is by far my favorite interaction, I think, in any game that I've ever run, in all honesty. And like, you were bound and determined to get me to sing something, and then you threw at the last moment in your native tongue, please. So I had to make up.
You have a beautiful voice, particularly in gibberish.
So that's one of my favorite moments there, as far as interaction and just outright ridiculousness. But there are two moments in Iroshan / Orphans, I think, that stand out for me. The finale of the first stretch of Iroshan, when basically all of the group that I had gone to high school with, Christy, all of our friends, when we finally came back together as a family at the very tail end, and got to see the results of basically kind of passing on certain aspects, like to the next generation, and all of us coming together after being apart for such a long time and so forth. So that was a real emotional one, I think, for me. And then two, when we did the crossover between Iroshan and Orphans, when
That was cool.
when Nyx finally got to have the interaction with her parents on the other in the other reality, and got to say some things to her that she needed to hear, and she got to say some things that she never got to say to her parents that were gone, blipped on the in the other reality. That was really cool. And anytime I can kind of bring out some genuine emotions, both in my players and in myself, and that one actually kind of surprised me. When it started to pull some actual true emotion out of me as the game master, as I was, interacting with the player. It really felt very real. So those are some moments for sure that I really enjoyed.
That crossover was amid COVID too, so it sort of the whole theme of getting to say goodbye after not having had a chance to say goodbye is extra intense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions from the gallery out there? And if not, from you guys, do you have anything?
I've kind of got a question for everybody here while we're waiting on the gallery. If there was a character that you've played with Chris before that you would bring back and want to play again, who would that be?
I know what your answer is.
We've talked about it. I'll go ahead and go then while you guys think about it. We did a marble campaign. I think this was the first marble I ever did, and we did random rolls, and it was perhaps the worst rolling I ever did. And the character basically had magnetic arc powers and then like metallic body armor that he could control. He could bring up and bring down and turn into spikes so that he could stick to things. But I didn't roll anything, I think, above a remarkable for any of these powers. So he was horrible at it. So I cannot take credit for his name. Our friend Nathan came up with the name for him. He was called Flail because basically he would activate this magnetic arc and become the greatest American hero and go and fly towards things. Over the course of the game, he killed a school bus full of children, accidentally, of course. He blew up northern Vanderburgh County, accidentally, of course, because of horrible rolls and things like that. But he was so much fun to play because you knew if I tried to do something, it was going to go horribly, horribly wrong. But he was also kind of the de facto leader of the group because he had the military experience. So he was just so much fun, and I'd love to bring him back for a campaign sometime.
Yeah.
And I kind of said earlier, I mean, Papaw was a hell of a lot of fun playtesting Requiem, I mean, I'd put him in any other Everyday Heroes campaign. Let's put it like that. Like, I liked that character enough. I'd slip him into a different campaign if I could. It was fun to play this kind of grumpy old man type. It was a different take on the barbarian thing I used to do, but it's like an aged version of it almost. So Papaw would be mine.
Yeah, he's cool.
He was fun to character design too. Just that back and forth you and I had kind of coming up with his look was the most fun I think I've had with that.
Yeah, I mean, I like my character in Requiem, but of the ones I'm not playing now, the Hammer would be the one. So most likely, I think it's fun. I've had it before where I play a character, somebody just gives me a character or something, and I like that because it really challenges me to try to do something different. So I played because I used to be like the chronic ranger, in D&D. I was always a ranger. So it's nice to get out of the bubble a little bit, do something different. And then Jace and Marvel Galaxies is completely different than the Hammer. So He couldn't carry the bricks that Hammer has.
What about you, Christy?
Well, my favorite of the recent spate of games is probably Charlie from Avalon by Gaslight.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a cool character. I really like that.
Yeah, that's been a fun one that was a sort of a departure for me,
Mm-hmm.
being 9 foot tall, I think I said, and pretty taciturn
Yeah.
and buff. Yeah, I can't think of any of the old ones other than the Marvel that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be fun to create some characters based on who we actually were in high school with you know, toilet papering bandits and
Right.
Avalon is when I started playing the Blip. I wasn't immediately starting to watch the other things you had done, but Avalon is the first one I watched all the way through that you had that you know had already posted, and that was a cool story. That was a lot of fun to absorb.
And that kind of goes into one of the questions that kind of got brought up here is if I've got any plans for upcoming campaigns. I will say that Marvel Galaxies is going to be a very long-running campaign for sure. And you know, and it may be kind of like what we've done with Orphans, is we may get to a point where we just decide, okay, we're going to take a little bit of a break and then go off and maybe do something else for a little while. But hopefully you guys are going to be in it for the long haul, those of you that are involved in that one. But I do know that I want to go back and revisit Avalon by Gaslight because I really liked that world and what we were doing in it. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until Everyday Heroes comes out with Everyday Arcana. And we'll transpose the Avalon characters into Everyday Heroes. I'm going to kind of test it out and see, and you know, whenever that comes out. And Marks, I don't know if you know the exact date when that's supposed to be coming out, but I think it's sometime.
They're giving sneak peeks, so pretty soon.
Yeah, before the
maybe
end of the
Gen
year.
Con. That's usually a great time.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of check that out.
Because that's Savage Worlds,
right? It
right?
is Savage Worlds that I did it in, yeah. And I mean, that worked okay, but I don't know how you guys felt about the system, Christy and Mike. What did you guys think about the system itself?
Or which one?
Avalon by Gaslight.
From what I remember, I liked it.
Liked it okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still trying to figure all these things out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
One of the things that kind of makes me want to try to move over to that, number one, is the great partnership that I've kind of come up with Everyday Heroes. They've been really supportive of the stuff that I've been doing and so forth. So I kind of want to stay a little bit, true to them. And one of the other questions that was raised was, how did I get involved with Everyday Heroes since I've been doing Marvel for so long? Marvel certainly has been my bread and butter for many, many years, and there hasn't been a single year that I haven't rolled the percentile dice, for that game since it came out. But I've done Vampire the Masquerade, I've done GURPS, I've done Pathfinder, I've done, lots of other ones, but, Marvel's my home. But when I saw Highlander and The Crow, the two of the properties that Everyday Heroes actually had, I was like, well, they're making that game for me. Because those are two of my favorite films of all time. And I really do enjoy the cinematic kind of quality that game actually does really provide, and it allows you to really kind of put your players into a film. Being an actor and having done a lot of stage work and so forth, that's and I'm a huge action movie fan as well. That system just really kind of fits into my niche. So that's kind of how I got involved with that. And then also seeing, that they were going to allow people to create their own stuff and then publish it. That was another big thing. I'm really planning on, continuing to use that system. I don't plan to move every campaign to Everyday Heroes. I'm certainly going to be sticking with my Marvel for sure. And we have a really, I think, good and loyal following with the Marvelites, with the folks on the Unofficial Canon Project. We've got a lot of people that watch from there for sure. And I think a lot of people that, are kind of finding our channel on YouTube that are playing the new Marvel role-playing game. Are kind of coming over, and I looked into possibly, going into maybe trying to convert over to that, but I'm old and I don't want to learn a new system. And
Thank you.
And I've got so much stuff already for the old system, and there is just not enough available with the new system to really make it worth my while. And I would have to work hours and hours and hours to convert everything over. It just wasn't worth it for me. And I see the comment there, Ironsides. I won't repeat it, but if you all look in chat, I have to agree. I did read it, and I kind of feel the same way.
I played it once. So.
Did you? Yeah. What were your thoughts on it?
It was okay. It was okay, but it lacked the powers description stuff. Lacked something that the original Marvel superheroes game does, because there's certain like duplicate powers, like you have power sets, and like you got like I can dodge real good, and it's like I have spider dodge, and then another one's like I have shrinking dodge, and they really mechanically do the exact same thing, So I don't know.
But I think it also just forces you down a certain path too.
Exactly.
And there's an amazing freedom I think that the phase rip system actually has, that you can create something completely wacky and unique and out of this world that you really can't do, I think, with that system, and truthfully any of the other Marvel systems that are out there. Again, I've bought them all because I was always looking for the next best thing. But I've never found anything really that tops it. And phase rip has its flaws, for sure. But phase rip also has a freedom about it that really just kind of allows you to just, if you need to fudge it, you can fudge it, and you can't do that, I think, with a lot of the subsequent games.
I'd say I was a 5e purist, just having learned to play that way for the longest time. I didn't have any interest. I'm kind of like, I had that mentality of I'm not going to learn another fucking time. I'm old. This is fine. I like D&D. This is good. But when you approached me about Marvel, I was nervous about learning it, and I was like, oh, this red, yellow, green. I got it. We're good. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like once I figured out the table, I actually really do like that system a lot. And the Everyday Heroes feels, similar to 5e and just it's, rolling the D20 and everything. But that cinematic feel that you were talking about, I do really like a lot of the what do you call them, like your skills, the way the skills are phrased, like driving is its own thing, mechanics, that makes it feel, grittier or a little more realistic in that way than your Marvel superpowers or your fantasy D&D or anything. And now we've branched out. Like I can't pick my favorite system now. I'm like, oh, these all have their pros and cons, But the heroes has been a lot of fun and feels really fair. But man, failure hurts in that one. Like.
Mike, I gotta tell you, Captain Martin is a huge fan of yours. I don't know if you saw him in chat here. I don't know if
I just saw it
or not, but
yeah,
he says you're a fantastic addition to the Get Charlotte game, and had him laughing every episode. So,
thank you. I always feel like, I have a question for the players, and Chris, you as well. I have a tendency to take things not seriously sometimes, as you could probably tell. But how do you balance trying to push your narrative into where you want to see a story go and trying to recognize maybe I'm derailing it for the sake of a laugh, or maybe I'm dominating the overall conversation in the scene and I need to pull myself back and share this and let others, I need to basically be led at this point. I need to stop trying to force things into how I want them to go. And then Chris, you have the idea of how the story actually needs to go. Have you guys ever struggled with that where you feel like, you know what, the next time we play, I really need to chill because I probably went a little overboard on that one? Or do you see that happen, Chris? And do you guys ever feel like you do that?
I have run in-person games where I will have and I mean both ends of the spectrum, okay? To where I've got somebody that is an attention hog, wants to be in the spotlight all the time.
Me.
No,
and Clint.
No, because I mean, truthfully, your rhythm and your pacing, I think you're conscious of the fact that I've had the spotlight long enough, and now I'm going to relinquish it, and I think you're cognizant of that, and that I've never had an issue with that with you at all.
Cool.
Nor Clint.
You don't have to lie just because I'm here.
No, I'm not. You know me. I would tell you if you were hogging the spotlight. but both of you guys have been a part of one of those groups where somebody was hogging the spotlight a little bit too much. And you know what I will do in cases like that is I will usually try to pull somebody aside and just say, "Hey, look, we need to try to give somebody else, the spotlight, from time to time." And then I also have others that just won't say anything throughout the whole process or be on their phone or what have you and not paying attention. And that probably drives me more nuts than somebody hogging the spotlight. Is that if you can't engage and be a part of the conversation, then why are you here at all? I would prefer, and again, I'm going to stick my foot in my mouth. I would prefer people to fight for the spotlight because I think number one, it takes a lot of the load off of my shoulders from having to come up with shit all the time. And I love to see organically how things go through the conversations between the characters. And I would much rather just relinquish some of that control from time to time and just let it go. And you guys will see me from time to time just shut my mouth and not speak up. And there will be some awkward silences. Usually on YouTube, I try to cut those out, but I'll let some silence sit there, especially when you're doing Zoom. It's kind of hard to get the rhythm right because there is a little bit of a lag, and you can be talking over somebody and so forth. So that creates its own little problem. But I'll back off from time to time and just shut up and just let things happen because I want to see where you guys will take things.
Well, I found like in the Gaslight by Avalon or whatever, I feel like there were two characters there that developed quite a bit of animosity that almost became a running joke. But by letting them do that and keep taking it to new heights, you also set up the ability for there to be a redemption or the opportunity for one of them to surprise everybody and actually do something right by the other character. Now, whether or not it actually happens is something different, but that's one of the things that I like is when you do just sort of sit back and you let these things, you can watch characters develop these interesting relationships that can then be exploited later, even by other players. Like, okay, you guys hate each other, but if we can force you into a point where you recognize you have to have them on the team to win, basically, we could set it up to where, or I could try and do something that's going to force this one to actually do something nice for the other player. And they're going to hate it. And it's going to be hilarious. Okay. Cool.
So are you hoping that the Marshal and the babysitter were gonna have a get together moment at some point? Because you're two characters.
See, what was going to happen was we were going to get Charlotte, and then we were going to adopt you, and then it was going to be like 3 men and a baby, and we were going to raise her on a farm in the heart of Mexico.
Hammer time.
Oh, it's hot in Mexico. Does anybody want some ice, baby? No, it's hammer time. And all kinds of terrible references.
I think somebody also mentioned Mutants and Masterminds in the chat, and I have played it, and I think Clint, you and I played with Ryan
yes,
for a very
I
short
don't remember
period of
much.
time. I don't know enough about it really to speak one way or the other. I know there's a lot of people that really do enjoy that particular set of mechanics, but I seem to remember the character creation was a bit of a slog. Do you remember, Clint?
I don't, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's not, I mean, if it didn't catch my attention that I remember that much about it, then that means I didn't particularly care for it.
Right. And same here. Like, I can't even remember the character that I created for it, you know?
Yeah. I played it before, and it's an okay game, but I see why you like Marvel better. So I kind of like second edition better than third. But it does allow a lot of character control, but character creation control. But then again, can take a lot of work, and so converting all your characters to Marvel would be a real pain. It's very time consuming.
Yeah. Where am I?
So just as a complete and total aside, Frick, one time when we're playing and you're laying like that, I need you to wear a white button-down shirt open down to your navel.
Just for you, buddy.
Jeff Goldblum.
Exactly.
Man, I need to invest in a good computer. I've got a little space where I could set my laptop in a good computer chair to go. I just need to get a good computer chair. But man, sitting up the way I do, about an hour into this, my back starts to hurt, and then you'll see me shift almost every game. You see the shift happen. So,
and yet you spend all weekend hunched over somebody's back.
Phrasing.
Second time that's been said to me today.
Better got to be a way to say it. Got to be a better way to say
that. So, Christy, one of your characters very early on, dating back to the old days, Poet.
Mm-hmm.
We created this power for you, where you had to create poetry. In order to enact your power, which was an incredibly evil thing for a very young game master to impart on a player that had really never actually played a role-playing game before, but you were so good at your wordsmith at the time, I just thought you could do it. When we came back to it so many years later, and as we've gotten a little bit older, you have... it always shines. She for sure is my favorite character of yours that you've played, and I also really liked the Tales from the Loop character. I really liked her as well. I like all of them, but those are kind of my two favorites. But Poet has always been my favorite because of your incredible ability to be able to create these rhymes on the fly and actually make it work into the power set of the character. So, what I mean, I know back in the day, you did that. Do you still write?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. But I have within the last few years a little bit, but not as much, not as frequently. It was evil of you.
Yeah, yes, it was very evil.
I often wondered how that came about because I mean, I love the Poet character too, and then playing in the crossover was amazing to see that,
just happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ironsides here is he says Poet is one of my favorite characters out of your games, and he's stunned that you can come up with something for literally any situation, but it was fucking diabolical to have me do that to you.
Yeah. My favorite thing now is when I'm halfway there and I'm struggling to like get it into the iambic pentameter and people are shouting rhyming words at me rapid fire and I'm like, no.
No, shut up. Just shut up.
Hang on.
I got it.
It's the best. Teamwork.
No, I do a lot of writing as well, Christy. But the thing is, there are a couple of my friends do the poetry on demand, like where they'll do, somebody comes up and 15, 25 minutes later they've got a poem about whatever topic, and like and then you do it in this game. Fuck off. I cannot. No, I cannot. You know what I mean? Like I will labor over a poem for 3 weeks before I feel like it's ready to go. You want me to do it in 10 seconds while you're in the middle of a game? I have no idea how you do it, but it's awesome. It's really cool.
Thanks. And that's awesome. I'm excited that you have a book coming out. I'm excited that the group who games is really a very writerly kind of cast of characters here. There are so many people who are published among this crew. It's kind of amazing to me.
I had a blog once.
Sweet.
No, I didn't.
I had a poem
No, wait, I
published
think
when I
I
was in
did.
high school.
Yeah, you did, Mike, because I think I read it.
All right. What's your MySpace?
It was. I think it was on MySpace.
Never had a MySpace.
It wasn't MySpace?
No, I never had a
Liar.
MySpace. No, I just saved my pithy comments for my boomerific Facebook. So
I can honestly say though, since we're giving accolades to other people on the screen here, when we were at Ogre, Mike, I really enjoyed playing with you. Me, you, and Dragon. I think
yeah,
we just had so much fun playing our characters, and just because it was a large group to start off with, but we were talking about hogging the time and stuff like that. We pretty much ran that group, and everybody else was kind of just along for the ride. I felt like, but I had so much fun doing it, and that's why I would love, hopefully, sometime in the future, I get to play another game with you because you're just so much fun to play off of, and watching you and Marks and Get Charlotte and everybody else and Get Charlotte, Christy, you two play off each other was just so much fun.
when we played, that was the first time I had played. That was like the first game.
Yeah.
Outside of like a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
And you intimidated the crap out of me.
Same, absolute same. My very first game,
because
Blip intimidated the shit out of me, and now I would say he's the person I've learned most about how to effectively role play well from. But those first couple games, I was scared shitless of you, bro.
Well, like
yes,
I was having
Goal
trouble
achieved.
separating the character from the person.
Same, yeah.
At first, because I was like,
Yep.
I think I like Clint, but he might be an ass.
You see, that's yes, I am an ass.
And I was like, but it's like the kind of ass where you're like, I would hang out with that guy.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You know?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
I feel like I learned a lot from there. Especially with like, because you would play your character very honestly, and I thought that was that's what really kind of got me hooked on it, was not just the mechanics of the game and everything else and all, but like you would go in and do something where you were like, that was a total dick move, but it's exactly what your character would do. And then if you fail a roll or something, it makes it even better. Because then you have to recover as an asshole.
I was so afraid playing that game because I took a very specific view of the Iron Fist that wasn't technically canon for the Iron Fist. And I was so worried how people were going to react to that. But then about 5 games into it, Tyner came up to me and says, "Man, I love the way you're playing the Iron Fist." So I just friggin' ran with it after that. And it was a blast.
Well, and two, I mean, you were playing the older version,
Right.
from technically World War One.
Mhm.
So he was kind of in his like later years at that
Yeah.
point. But it was very true to who that character actually was,
Right.
and you had never read it.
No.
You didn't even know that that dude existed when we started playing it. But I mean, I think you really fell into that really well. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Just once, I want to play a character that tries to do something cool and succeed.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I can roll 20s all day long. And then the minute that I try to do something cool,
Mhm.
it's like ones, twos, and threes consistently, like week to week to week, until finally I'm like, my character's just an idiot. Every character ends up an idiot. So I'm starting to think I'm just playing myself. And I need to branch out. But yeah.
So I mean, we're deep into some pretty long, what are going to be long running campaigns.
Mhm.
You know, with Whispers of Time, we'll be taking a little bit of a break and going back to Orphans, and then we'll come back to Whispers, and we'll kind of bounce back and forth on that one. If you had one genre, one game, one concept, whatever the case may be, that you would want to participate in as a player that we haven't done, what would it be?
That you haven't done, because I would have said get me in a Tarantino game ASAP. I love Charlotte so much.
Yeah.
As far as stuff we haven't done, let me think about that.
Post-apocalyptic world, absolutely zero magic. Every man for himself. Almost like a Western type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Fallout type games.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Something like that, where, because like I struggle with magic because I never understand the rules of it. And so I feel like unless it's like really well defined, somebody can always kind of, so it's like your power should allow you to almost be godlike, but it has to have limitations.
Mhm.
Or all of a sudden somebody has a power and I'm like, well, how'd you come up with that? Like, that doesn't seem fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would love to see something that, and I love anything and everything Western. So, you know, just almost a bunch of people that have some sort of a common goal, but also ultimately want to come, almost like a, what am I trying to say? Like a winner take all type thing.
Yeah.
You know, where you have to form alliances and stuff, but you know you're going to get stabbed in the back, potentially, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think that could be really, really fun.
Stephen Minix in chat actually beat me to it, but there is a game out there that fits your description pretty much perfectly. It's Gamma World.
Okay, I'll have to Google it.
And I have never played it, but I'm familiar with it. That's been around, Stephen, I think, for 30 years or more, probably. But I remember reading it for sure.
So
Okay.
I'll take two kind of. I would do something like spacey, steampunky. Think Firefly.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of a fun universe. The other thing I think I would be really cool to do, and Everyday Heroes I think would be perfect for this, but something like very noir. You know, maybe like a detective, some sort of detective story of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
I do also. I'm with Michael. I like westerns a lot too. That could be a lot of fun. But I think, you know, something dark, sneaky, detective-y, you know, maybe some steampunk elements that, you know, any of those could be a blast, either combined or on their own. In Whispers, we're doing a lot of the sneaky, you know, a lot more sneaky than we ever were in Marvel. Let's put it that way. And you know, I am enjoying that element of it, of having to um plan for the fact that, you know, to a lot of extents these people are just human and kind of squishy, and it makes you play the game a little bit different.
Mhm.
So I think setting up some of those, you know, genres, you know, like that, like the noir and things in the Everyday Heroes could be fun.
Mm-hmm. And actually, what you've described is exactly what I did with the game that Clint was talking about earlier, that he wished that we could get back to,
Mhm.
which I entitled Dark Horizons.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And I basically kind of took the rule set of the White Wolf version of Mage, the Ascension,
Mhm.
but then flipped it on its ear and made magic science.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And it was a spacefaring thing, and it was very heavily influenced by Firefly and so forth. And there is a Firefly game, as some of the folks in chat have mentioned. Good old Captain Martin, he's right on top of everything. There's Firefly that's out there, so
I knew there was
that
one. I've
could
never
be
got a chance
something
to
there
play
too.
it.
But
Yeah.
as Mark's pointed out, I always like to take something that's known and flip it, and kind of
Mhm.
make it my own a lot of times. So yeah, at some point, Clint, I've told you this. I've wanted to get back to that Dark Horizons because I really liked the
Yeah,
idea
it
of
was.
that quite a
It
bit.
had.
So
I was very sad when we had to stop. I forget what happened, but we had to stop playing. That somebody dropped out
mhm.
or something. But yeah, that was very cool, and I loved my character in that too, the
Yeah.
android.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, the one thing that besides Dark Horizons, I'd love to get back to, and I mentioned this, I think to you last time we played, is I'm really missing Tales from the Loop.
Mhm.
I would really love to explore that system in that world a lot more because that is such a fun, interesting world.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Christy?
I really love the Tarantino stuff too. I like what's going on with Whispers in terms of time jumps. I really like that. I like the dark, maybe something with a little bit of history, at least in terms of setting, and some Edgar Allan Poe or something Frankenstein, or I like the storytelling components. And I do like the idea of maybe a mystery or something, things being revealed over time. That deepen that.
Cool.
Next.
Well, and I think honestly, I mean, that's one of the beauties I think of the Galaxies game that we've started is that we very likely can explore all of that in this game, and I know you probably don't see it yet because we just haven't gotten to a point where we can do that, but there's so much to explore, I think, especially when we start getting to other planets and so forth, within the galaxies. So, yeah.
And so I'm really excited to see where Whispers of Time goes because I'm very invested in that, and having Carl be the crazy ass paranoid base for all of these other characters and seeing what else we come up with, what other times we go. You've mentioned a couple of the time periods we could go to, and those excite me, but just to see who I get to create and then working who everybody else gets to create, and having different dynamics with other players throughout the sessions is really friggin' exciting because Orphans is great, but we've got these established relationships among the characters, and not that it gets stale, but it seems like there's a limit to that where Whispers of Time just takes that away and just opens the door to anything.
Yeah.
At the very least, in Marvel, it changes like an arc over time, where in Whispers, it's, it's going to be instantaneous in some cases where we're in this we end up in this other timeline, and the relationship is immediately different. And
it's going to change. Yeah.
Really cool. It's a fun dynamic for sure.
Yeah. And it's going to be, if we need to put other people into it.
Right. How's that going to happen? Right.
Yeah. How's it going to happen?
Which we have now done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's just screwed with Sylvester completely.
But
son of a bitch, I'm just now realizing that. Like, how's she gonna end up in the oh, that's messing
future,
with me.
right?
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I didn't even think about that.
When I conceptualized Whispers and, starting you guys in the present day and then immediately throwing you back to, 1499 of Florence. I knew that each arc was going to be one complete story, in each of these time periods. So the plan moving forward, as you guys know, but just kind of sharing it with the group, is to jump basically about 100 years into the next time frame, and a whole different part of the world, different part of history, and so forth. And we will see the immortal character, if he survives, which it came close the other night. We will follow basically his character through the ages. We're following Clint's present day character through the ages as the assassin, but the assassin will always switch and change to a different character as well. But all the players, except for Sean playing the immortal, will always be playing a different iteration of that character in some way. And that, to me, was the real appeal for trying to figure out how to make this work. And it was the Assassin's Creed thing that really kind of helped me tie all of that together. It makes sense with the Immortal to do the time-stretching story, but how do you do that with a Crow character? And how do you do it with, the Requiem-style characters that I'm introducing into that world as well? So it was that addition of the Assassin's Creed that really did it, because he is the contact, essentially, that connects everything through time. In addition to the immortal character, obviously.
He's gonna demand one of those updated interfaces before he goes back in, just to just to give you a heads up for future storylines.
Yeah.
I'm going to request a quick side spinoff, or not spinoff, crossover, where it's in the 90s and suddenly like some of the Get Charlotte characters suddenly appear.
That would be awesome.
Okay, so I have to tell you,
I'm available.
I'll
be out of town for a little while. You let me know when it's going to happen. I'll be available.
I was honestly thinking that if one of the characters died in Get Charlotte early on, like in the process of the story, that they were either going to be immortal or they were going to come back as a crow.
No.
I just had that just in my back pocket just in case. And it might have ruined it, and I probably wouldn't have done it, but I really seriously thought about it for sure.
Well, now I'm thinking that I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but some things that happen in the finale could take a total different turn later.
I've determined that those 2 episodes. I'm finishing those 2 episodes tomorrow. It's happening, especially after this discussion. Like, I gotta finish it.
Yeah, and Clint, as far as the Animus goes, we're really not sure exactly whether that is an updated device, an archaic device compared to what you were using, but it's certainly different.
Yeah, I assumed that the Animus that I was using, since it was the students that had taken it, since they had taken it away from the, and had hidden it, and were in the warehouse, that it was not as powerful as the ones that the people in the last episode that what was his name?
Oh, was it Todd?
Todd, yeah, that Todd was using.
Todd. So, okay, all right, help me out here a little bit with the Animus thing, because I understand a little bit of what Assassin's Creed is, but I did not actually play the games. A buddy of mine did and kind of explained it to me.
Get out. You're fired.
No,
you don't want my opinion on Assassin's Creed.
Here's the thing. I think they're awesome. I just hadn't gotten around. Yeah, it's just been one of those games that's remained on my to-do list. That's just never gotten in there. You know what I mean? But exactly what is... I mean, Clint is appearing into somebody else in the past and physically controlling them like a, like a fucking mech suit, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. Is that the idea? Is it another person, I guess? I
don't-
guess that's what I'm at. Is it another person like Madalena is another person from Sojourn, or is it him? You know what I mean? But like a past version of him. You know what I mean? Like
When Carl was originally part of the trials, he was basically just along for at that point in time with the technology, he was just along for the ride.
Right.
He
You just
would
experience a genetic memory.
he would inhabit
Okay,
them, but
okay.
he had little to no control over them.
Okay.
That has changed over time. Carl is not 100% aware of that. So that's why in the last episode, when he was stabbed when he died, basically, by what's her face, he said I said in a different voice, he said, "Fuck you, bitch."
That's okay. See, I think that's what was throwing
Carl's
me.
first attempt at trying to assert himself.
Or
Got it.
maybe not
Okay.
even trying, but just he asserted himself just because
Right.
of the situation that he was dying right then.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
And
That I think is what was throwing me a little bit. Was it? But now I understand though it's part of it. It is kind of part of
Yeah.
the story we're telling here. Is the extent of the control he has.
Yes.
That's what. But
Right.
okay.
yeah, so
That's kinda what was
Carl is
throwing
just
me
now
about that.
grasping the concept of the fact that that's actually what this new system is really capable of. Correct. Yeah.
Me too,
Yeah.
Carl. But no, honestly, here's the thing. Like with like Assassin's Creed, and then in Marvel, here's the deal. I like Marvel. I mean, I know who most of these people are and what they can do and everything, but I never got deep into the comic books, and I wasn't, first in line to see Endgame or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's never been but I like that. And I like being able to play as a person with like what I would call slightly below medium knowledge of some of these universes. It not only makes it more fun for me, I think in the moment as I'm kind of hearing some of this, it makes it a little bit unpredictable. But it allows me to make my characters' reactions a little bit more genuine too, because they wouldn't know. You know what I mean? And it allows me to play into that a little bit, and kind of feel for what that reaction would be. So I almost started to play Assassin's Creed. I almost downloaded it off Steam the other day and started to play it. And then I was like, no, let's get a little further into this game first, and
Wait a minute,
then I'll
which
maybe
one,
play some.
Which one
But
did you download?
I didn't download it yet, but it was it was like a bundle thing. I think it was like the first three
Is it
altogether.
the Ezio trio?
Yeah, that's
that's great.
Yes,
And
there's a wide spectrum of games in there.
Mm-hmm. But I think the Ezio trilogy is probably
still,
I think, the best. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'll eventually probably download. I mean, it was a 50% off deal. Whether I get it for that or not remains to be seen. But I think that's probably where I'll start. But they've long been on my list. I mean, a buddy of mine, Scott, plays them and tells me about them and has bragged about them for years, and it's just something I just never got around to. But they seem awesome, So
Okay, this is totally aside, but I'm going to use your comment, Clint, fuck you, bitch, when someone got stabbed as a segue. Have you ever, Chris, or considered not doing an action-based, but a rom-com?
I almost.
Wow. Okay.
Well, not a rom-com, but
or even just a straight comedy.
Yes, I almost did What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay.
Ooh.
That would be awesome.
Because I feel like it would be really difficult, but really fun.
It would take people who are just willing to just go whole hog for sure.
Okay.
And I do want to do that. I played in a game with some of the folks from hold on. Happy Jacks RPG.
Okay.
I played with some of these guys, and they did a one shot of What We Do in the Shadows in Vampire the Masquerade, and I played okay, so this is me, following who I really am, but then flipping it So he was a traditional Japanese samurai who
I knew it.
who was disgraced and became a Ronin. And he ended up eventually coming over to the United States, and he became Elvis Presley's karate instructor as a vampire, of course, and believed that he inadvertently was the cause of Elvis's death, and.
Oh my God.
The guy that ran the game loved it so much that by the end of the one shot, he had me actually run into Elvis, the actual Elvis, revealing that he had actually become a vampire himself, and so so he was
That's
actually
awesome.
redeemed.
That's amazing.
But
Awesome.
in the time that he like after he killed Elvis, he decided that he was going to pay tribute to him, so he became an Elvis impersonator. So he was a Japanese Elvis impersonator vampire.
So when did you flip it from who you are?
And he always
I'm
talked
just
like
saying.
this, baby.
If you ever do something like that with what we do in the shadows, I'm calling the energy vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah. What system would you use? Would you use vampire or something else?
Oh, I
for
definitely
that?
would use vampire.
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't know that I would use the current iteration. I'd probably use the original more than likely. I think for that. I've got the new one. That was something that I was toying around with the Get Charlotte group before we jumped into Get Charlotte. I was kind of thinking about maybe running a like St. Louis by Night kind of campaign, and was kind of thinking of some stuff for that. But when Everyday Heroes came out, I just diverted, and I was like, well, I can do Tarantino in that, so I'm going to do that.
So I'm gonna have to bounce here in a sec, y'all. But Chris, I got one more quick question for you. Do you know yet? And I hate that this happened because again, when I booked this, it was supposed to be in the afternoon and it moved on me. Do you know if this Sunday if you're gonna do Whispers or if you're gonna branch and do something different?
I probably will do Whispers if everybody else is going to
That's
be
fine.
able to be there.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
and
cool.
I think we've got most everybody else, so yeah, I probably will.
That's okay.
And-
That's okay.
And
I just make sure
may-
I want to keep my rats. I'm
Okay.
that's
All
where
right,
we
sure.
ended last time.
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly is going on here, but make sure whatever happens that I want to keep these rats.
Good night,
I think
Steven.
they'll be useful.
Good night. One of our guys is leaving there. I'm just telling him good night. Sorry.
But well, I appreciate it, guys. It's been fun chatting with everybody, and I take it easy. But Chrissy, I'll be out this Sunday, but I'll see you in like 3 weeks.
All right.
So-
Sounds good, buddy.
See
Thanks
you
for
soon.
coming
All
tonight.
Yep. Good night, y'all.
Night.
Yeah, all right. Good night.
Yeah, I should probably get going.
Yeah,
too,
no
actually.
problem. I think we'll probably
Well,
go ahead
now
and call
he's
it.
gone.
Yeah, now that he's gone. Yeah.
Now he's gone. Why
Life of the party.
stay?
But for those of you that are watching on chat and Twitch, I can't thank you guys enough for coming tonight. I really thought maybe we would do this and we would just be playing to ourselves and just recording this for posterity's sake. But guys, thank you all so very much for being a part of the chat tonight. I really, really appreciate it. It was a real big surprise to see so many people come out. So thank you all very much. And those of you that joined me tonight, my players, I love you all so much, and thank you for being a part of this tonight and kind of kicking us off with a bang. And we will be meeting once again with Marvel Galaxies. We'll have our first true streaming Marvel Galaxies on Tuesday night coming up here this week, and then we'll follow up with Whispers of Time next Sunday. So once again, thank you everybody. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop the stream and keep Zoom running so I can talk to you guys for just a moment. So thank you all very much. Bye guys. Thanks
Good
a
night,
lot.
everyone. Thank you for joining.
Witty closing joke here. I got nothing tonight.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
come on, dude.
I'm sorry.
All right, good
I'm
night,
sorry.
everybody. Bye.
All right.
Night. Bye.
All right. Well, cool, guys. Thank you. That was fun.